Washington and London to Paris ended up in Moscow. So the NATO headquarters staff, the admiral, there was a British air marshal, Thomas Pike, was the deputy secure. He was assistant deputy to my boss, an American four-star general by the name of Lyman Lemnitzer. Sir Thomas Pike, after the incident in February of '61, said, we're going to have to figure what the hell's going on here. We're getting nothing from Washington or London on this issue. We ask, they don't send anything. We ask them for information and insight on these objects. Who are they? What's happening? Nothing. Well, nothing was because everything that came from Washington and London ended up in Moscow, thanks to the French, the Hungarians, and the Germans and all. So the study was initiated strictly as a military idea to conclude what the hell was happening for us here. Is there a threat, yes or no? They concluded apparently not, because these guys had been coming and going for a long time. The History Annex took it back a couple of thousand years. The records, the photographs, the drawings, the paintings, it was unbelievable material. This was all just wild for me, you see.
Okay, but this is after World War II.
Yes.
This is after Germany had, we paperclip and...
Germany was divided.
Okay. And you were on West...
We were West. We were Western Europe.
Sure. Okay.
The Warsaw Pact was Eastern Europe.
So are you saying that the technology that was used by Hitler and his group, some of which was brought back to the United States, was not known to the West... to the people in NATO that were doing this report?
Of course not. It was highly classified.
But it's a classified document. So you're saying there's
classification. You have a classified document here, and then you have a classified document here, and the guys who wrote this one and have access to this one can't read that one because they don't have the need to know. Okay. Now the guys that have got this one and wrote it and read it and talk about it, they can't read this one because that's another separate classified document.
This guy Pike, right? He's the guy in charge.
Thomas Pike, Air Marshal Sir Thomas Pike, initiated the study in February of '61 and said,
he had a need to know.
I want to know what the hell's going on, and they started the study.
He's in NATO. There's some kind of animosity, I don't know, to this day between NATO, right, and the U.S. and...
Honey, you should have seen the animosity that existed in SHAPE headquarters itself.
Okay.
It was so bad that the Greeks and the Turks wouldn't even walk on the same side of the corridor. Cyprus was an issue back then, still is. So we had Greeks and Turks snarling and frowning at each other, and we had the French. Oh, excuse me, bless their hearts. The French were a pain in the butt from the very beginning.
Why?
Well, first of all, de Gaulle hated the fact that Churchill and Truman had not given him the appropriate respect that he felt he deserved. One of the reasons that happened while I was there is that France withdrew from the military alliance. De Gaulle threw us out. We had to pack our bags and move the entire kit and caboodle from Paris to Brussels. And I was there at the time when it happened.
Okay, now where are you reading the report before or after this happened?
I'm reading the report in Paris. SHAPE was located at a little town called Chatou, Rocancourt, right outside of Paris. Right. Little old Napoleonic battle took place there somewhere. Anyhow, the animosity between the French and everybody else, the Germans, the Italians, and the Americans and the Brits were all like this. The French were over here.
But you're saying that the guy who initiated the report is Pike?
Pike.
Okay. And you're saying, I mean, he clearly had a need to know it if he's having flyovers, and the U.S. is hearing about this, Britain is hearing about this, the people at the top are hearing about this. So he does this report on his own or something. That's what it's sounding like. I mean, he had a need to know, so theoretically
he was a 5-star rank air marshal.
Okay.
He had authority to initiate a study like this, and he did.
Okay. Where did it go from there? Do you know? Did it go to the U.S.? Did it go to...
No.
It sat in a safe
They
somewhere?
published 15 copies
Right.
A copy went to the U.S. First, copy one went to the Secretary General of NATO. But you cannot imagine what an international headquarters is like. It's like a wasp's nest. As I said, the Greeks and the Turks were snarling at each other all the time. The French were always angry at everybody.
Okay, so what are you saying, 15 copies?
15 copies were initiated. Copy went to the U.S., copy went to Italy, copy went to France, copy went to U.K., and so on. 15 copies were out. One copy, I think the 14th or the 15th, came right there in the vault at Shock.
Okay.
Reading material for the controllers, the full colonels who ran the 24-hour-a-day war room.
So you weren't the only one that read it?
Oh, no, no, no. No, we had an American Air Force general by the name of Robert Lee. Robert Lee read the thing.
Okay.
I got to know his aide fairly well. It was a lieutenant colonel. And inside the war room, we were a select group. We all had the highest clearance possible. The enlisted men and the officers mingled closely. The enlisted men had, the senior enlisted men, most of us were top, E7s or E8s, and a couple of E9s. So we mingled closely, and it wasn't on a first-name basis. There was always respect for rank. But when you work in a war room like that, and you work closely together over the years, you get to know each other pretty well. General Lee's aide told me, he said, when the old man read that story, or read that report, the assessment, he says it hit him like a truck, hit him like a ton of bricks. He told me that the general threw his hat across the desk and he says, do you know what the hell this means? Everything we've got, everything we've done, everything we've had doesn't mean a damn thing. The shock was pretty serious. Here you have a highly decorated World War II Air Force general who'd been all over the place. I think he flew B-29s Pacific. He said, if this is all true, if this is real, what we've got, our military, our Air Force, our bombs, our planes, doesn't mean a thing. The conclusions of the study, after 3 years, concluded that they had been coming here for a very long time, that they apparently had some involvement in the origins of our species. Big shock to traditional people, particularly Christians and Muslims people. It was interesting is that apparently there was not a threat involved. If they were hostile or aggressive, they would have been over a long time ago. Now, what was their purpose? Well, the study was not able to conclude that. It said that the military committee will continue this research, which indicated to me that the study in some form had continued, that this document in '64 was simply an initial conclusion.
Okay.
But when they concluded that there were 4 different extraterrestrial groups involved, and one of them was totally human, looked just like us, that was a big shock to the old traditional mindset of the military. The admirals and the generals, you know, they couldn't deal with it.
And it also said that there was something to do with the religions, that all the religions of the world.
Well, let me tell you, the study was not that thorough. It was a beginning for me.
Okay.
It was the initiative, the initial event that triggered my curiosity. It launched me on 40 years of research. And much of what I've concluded has been a result of the years of study since. You see, I continued to dig. I continued to probe. I continued to turn over rocks. As I said, I drove my friends up the wall.
Okay, you looked at this material. You learned a lot. You weren't the only one. You convinced me of that. Supposedly, I mean, these people that you know also read it. They weren't your close friends, I'm assuming.
Well, they were not my dearest, closest friends. No.
Okay. But were you able to talk to them or have relationships with them outside of like 1967?